sahaviryam karavavai tejasvinavaditam astu ma vidvishavai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. May He protect us both together. May He nourish us both. May we work conjointly with great vigor, great energy. May our study be vigorous, effective. May we not mutually cavil with each other. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. We normally begin these sessions with question and answer. So, yes. Oh, it's at the back. Oh, it's like school, you see. That's right. Important rooms you have to point out.
Swamiji, what's the ego in relation to God? If the ego is a product of Maya, but yet Maya is the power of the Lord, so is the ego actually God in a reflected sense?
So what we mean by the ego is just I, sense of I, and all of us have a sense of I. More than that, we have a sense I exist. And so that sense of self-existence is a great advantage for us. In the psychosocial evolution of man, we find that with this great sense of I, we can accomplish many things. For example, a small child can sit on a buffalo or on an elephant or a horse and master it. Small child. But you see, an elephant with one movement can crush the entire child. So what is that special thing in mankind that is able to assert itself in the environment of the rest of nature? And then man has asserted itself or himself in the whole environment of the globe, of the world itself, and also beyond, outer space also, investigating the nature of things. And also making its indelible mark, even though it's a new arrival on the planet. There are probably only about 30 nucleotide variants in man, which means recent arrival, compared to everything else, recent arrival. And in this very short space of time, man's sense of self has been able to make its indelible mark, sometimes for good and sometimes not so. When it's not in the favor of Mother Earth, it means that this ego has taken over. It's gone beyond a sense of special mastery and assertiveness linked with the brain power that it has to change the world and to understand its environment. More importantly, no other creature can do it. And so this sense of individuality is part and parcel of the human makeup. But every part of the human makeup is in some way a signature of the thing that is beyond it. So is there some sense of existence? Yes. The Vedanta says that that substratum is existence itself. We call it Sat, existence itself, consciousness itself, because you can't certainly get consciousness out of unconsciousness. There's a great dilemma in modern science, those people who have a materialistic brain, to try and understand. Supposing at one time this planet Earth was just a rock with an iron core, and an unremarkable place in a sense, at the edge of an ordinary kind of galaxy. How is it that life is here? The chances, they say, of the development of all the synapses in the human brain and so on being there, all this corroborative cellular function and organization, so complex in the human entity, from a mere single cell, which itself is complex, is extraordinarily out of the ballpark. It's beyond the range of probability. And so therefore it leaves us with a question mark. So the life itself is a signature of something remarkable. And then when we see the dividedness of it and see that there's an ego component of the human psyche, it is because we have a nature that can assert itself and command nature. Now, if it is used to command the internal aspect of nature, then we will find not only the answer to all problems of nature, because we have found the substratum of it, but we will find all the personal miseries identified with this attachment. And this attachment is a psychophysical attachment. It's attachment to the body. So the characteristic of this ego is to say, I, not only I exist, not only I am so-and-so, but I'm primarily physical. I am this body. This is my bank account. These are my relatives. And we don't give any profound considerations to how long will this body live. It's a question we don't like to ask. We put that question away, put it in a cupboard somewhere, and pretend it doesn't exist. And death can happen to everybody, but not me. Somehow I think I am immortal. Now this is part and parcel in a sense of this Maya, this play, which exhibits itself in a genetic way, giving two key genetic directives to sustain this sense of existence. One is the instinct to propagate the species. The most successful, according to modern theories of evolution, the most successful species that adhere to some principle of natural selection are those that propagate the most, where the populations increase the most. These are the most successful and dominant species. That's on the one hand. On the other hand, the question of skillfully bringing in an orderliness to ourselves through eating and drinking and breathing and so on, sustaining life. Now in Sri Ramakrishna's language it's called lust and greed, or he has a catchphrase for it, Kamana Kancha. Kamana Kanchana, that is woman and gold, or we can say lust and greed. It's his way of saying there are these two genetic directives and we have to override them. Of course they are a product of Maya, because Maya's job is to deceive us. Maya's job is to misdirect us in order to continue this game. Of course, if you don't take it like a game, you'll be out for trouble. But if you have a philosophical approach to it, take it like a joyful sport or a game, then you have the capacity then to not only enjoy the process, but also stand back and transcend it. And it's this transcendent aspect that we know of that will give us, by using this very Maya, a transcendence over it. So Maya has not just one component, but several components. I mentioned a deceiving aspect, and what is this deceiving aspect? Well, and we can combine various things that we as humans categorize as good and bad, plus and minus, joyful, painful, etc. We can categorize it like that. But from Maya's point of view, there are two deceiving forces, that is, two delusional forces that keep us in a delusional state. One is a projection, and the other one is a hiding. And we have all these examples that by now you're tremendously familiar with. The most common example will be that of the snake and the rope. In case you don't know the story, I'll tell it again. We'll leave out the once upon a time. So, in the twilight, now this is a scenario not in Ireland, because Ireland doesn't have snakes. St. Patrick, I think, told them, to go, and even without a visa they left Ireland. So let's put it in a different country. Since I come from Africa, Africa is a good way of presenting a scenario. In the twilight of the day, that is, in the evening when the sun is going down and your vision is slightly impaired, can't see properly because the sunlight doesn't give you all the brilliance of daytime, day vision. Out you go into the garden, and in the small wee hours or the late evening, you see something that looks very threatening to you. Immediately you diagnose what you see and you say it's a snake. Now in Africa, where I come from, it's a very common practice to step out. You have to be careful. You can step out of your back door onto a puff adder, and the puff adder will not be very pleased and will be inclined to bite you, and you'll be inclined to go to the hospital if you can, because within a very short period of time it can be, devastating. So you see something coiled up, and you immediately, from your experience, know some coiled up thing in the corner in a garden must be a snake. But in your wisdom, you choose to go and seek for assistance. Of course, you have other options. One option is you can attack it. Another option, you can run away from it. Another option, you can stand still, mesmerized. These are the various options that we have: fight, flee, and yield. Or you can go inside and seek somebody who happens to have a torch. Come on, come on. What's wrong? I stepped out in the garden and there's a snake there. Come and see. So the person comes with the torch, beams the torch, looks at the flowers and the grass and the trees, suddenly picks up a figure. Is this what you were seeing? Oh, yes. And as they get close and as the torch reveals what it is, what happens? It's not a snake at all. It's a rope coiled up, looking just like a snake. Ah, thank you for saving me from the snake. The silly phrase, because nobody got rescued. There was no snake in the first place to rescue you from. So Maya and the world that we recognize is due to it has these various characteristics of projection. In the example, a snake was projected on a rope. It wasn't there. And so we project it. We use our experience, which is saturated with imagination and imaginative scenes, and we superimpose there a snake. What we might call, in a sense, what the yogis call verbal delusion. We get deluded and we superimpose something. We fill the gap in. Same thing if I describe a scene to you all. So I ask you, please close your eyes and say, all right, so in the distance there are mountains or hills. In the foreground there is a hut or a house, and then beyond that is grass. Then I ask the group of people, please, can you tell me what I just described? One person will have the mountains in Switzerland, and the foreground will maybe a chalet with meadows. Another person will have a mud hut with thatch, and wild grass growing, and bush and trees and so on, and lesser hills in the background, not snow-capped. Another person may have something like, the mountains that we find there in northwest of Ireland, peculiar shape, shaped by erosion and so on. And we'll find that kind of thing. And the house in the front would be something like an Irish cottage, and so on. Everybody will use their own background, their own experience, because we all fill in the gap from our own experience and our own imagination. So this is called projection. Things are projected. Just like a film show, the film is projected. But because of that, the reality is hidden. So the rope was hidden, a snake was projected, and fortunately, a wise person goes to reveal what is actually there out of pure curiosity, and we find there's a revealing factor too. Revealing factor, hiding factor, projecting factor, all this is component of Maya. As soon as we understand that and see through this Maya, this myth, then immediately the truth is revealed to us. And once we see the truth, we won't make the mistake again. So that's the nature of it. So this ego is inserted to give you a sense of identity, and all egos are there. Otherwise, we would have no borders, we'd have no sense of individualities. And they're useful tools. They're useful tools to assert yourself in this material life, make a better life. Or a worse one, because you can allow this ego to dominate others. And if you do that, of course, it's not a better world. It's not a generous world. It's not full of love. It's not full of a generosity of spirit. And then knowing the nature of it, you can use it, you can make it an open channel for God's grace to flow. So the ego is described by Sri Ramakrishna in terms of a fruit. When the fruit is ripe, it falls away by itself. It's a question of maturity. So our maturity will allow us to use a formula in life where the ego becomes an open gate where things flow through it to the outside. Or it can be a gate that keeps everything inward. And the more it opens, the more generous you become, the more loving you become, the more peaceful you become. But as you close it, then the stingier you become, the narrower you become, the more egocentric you become, the more selfish you become, the more unhappy you become, the more difficult life is. So, like anything else, it's a tool that can be used, or it's something that it can inhibit and bind you. It's up to you. But nature's design is to make that so that you can understand nature, dominate nature, and be of some service to others. If we misuse it, because of this misunderstanding, we only have two of these factors. We see the projection, and we don't even recognize something as hidden. We're just dealing with projection. Now this projecting quality is actually called rajas. Don't forget that the whole of nature only has these three components, and when we say nature, maya, saguna brahman, these are all synonymous terms. We can say nature, but we have to understand nature for it to be of a great advantage to us. Let me give you an example. If you want to lower a bucket into a well to get water, then gravity, part of nature's component forces, will assist you. But it will be against you when you pull it up. Knowing this, you have to use extra horsepower, extra muscular power to bring it up, and allow on nature's downward force when you lower it. As soon as you understand nature's rules, nature's boundaries, and nature's systems, then it can be used. See Swami Vivekananda's wonderful statement, encapsulating the whole of this ideal. Each soul is potentially divine. You know it by now, off by heart. The goal, what is the goal of life? To manifest this from within, controlling nature, internal and external, controlling Maya, is something useful. When you control it, it's useful. But when you abuse it, it's to our detriment. Pulling down the lungs of the planet for our selfish purpose is not only to the detriment of the local area, but the whole planet. Treating Mother Earth just as a piece of matter that has no sentiency whatsoever, that has no organic component, it's just a thing, a neutral thing that we can do what we like with, has put us in tremendous problems. And this has arisen from Descartes. And from Descartes onwards, materialism has come in, and so that we think that every part of what we recognize as the universe, nature, and so on and so forth, we can just do what we like. We can take industrial waste and pump it into the atmosphere. We can put plastic and polystyrene in rivers. We can just leave debris on beaches and so on. So this is the great green movement now. People are becoming more sensitive to it, fortunately. But if the earth is our mother, will we treat our mother like this? If we insert the Vedantic principle of seeing the divinity within there, will we treat this like this? No, we won't. So our evaluation of things must change. What has this got to do with our 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita? Not entirely sure, but we'll have a look now and see what the relevance is. So, we were studying the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And I think we left off at the 20th stanza there, and just to summarize, you see, there are 3 Vedas. Of course there are 4, but in the ancient days, more ancient days, there seemed to be only 3, and the 4th was a later development perhaps. But 3 Vedas were taken very seriously. The Rig Veda, the Saman Veda, Yajus Veda, these were the 3 Vedas. But it seemed that the ancient people had the idea that we want to improve people's life here, and also we recognize the mortality that you have, so hereafter is also important. And we know how to control nature, internal and external. There's the link. How do we control nature? We control nature by manipulating its most fundamental and effective force. What is that? Thought. And thought gets expressed in mantras and gets reinforced through rituals. And when we think an intention without any suitable neutralization of it, a counter thought or something like that, a doubt, then it carries through to the end and condenses as the scene in front of you. Knowing that, the Vedic people, dedicated to ritual and sacrifice and the welfare of humanity, understood that we require food, and to get food, society requires rainfall, and to get rainfall, then it is necessary to manipulate nature. And how will you do it? You don't go and seed clouds, as is the practice today. You understand that the subtle component in all nature and all its varieties and forces is really manifestations of one entity. But since you understand these various forces, we call them, for convenience sake, devas, or shining ones, revealing factors. As soon as you realize that you can manipulate nature's forces like this, nature's forces have no independent hold on you. You see how other religions have developed. We pray to God because He's the controlling factor. Now you start off like that and split this God into various powers and see if you can get a result. Then you realize the secret of it. What is the secret of it? In the mantra itself, in the thought movement itself. Anyway, if you lead a good life, you'll get a merit. And if you sacrifice appropriately, do the correct rituals with good intention, right mantras and so on, spend some money on it, then you'll get the right social conditions here and hereafter, and the hereafter social conditions are called heaven. Of course, there are varying heavens. 7 varieties of it, traditionally. 7 varieties the other way also. So it's not just one variety. You know, some religions only have one thing, that is, there's a barbecue. It's always somewhere in a certain place, and you're the subject of it. In heaven, you can have anything you like, any desire that you like is fulfilled, and most religions have the same kind of concept, that whatever you desire is a mobilizing force that gives a momentum to a hereafter. So if you're good here, you'll get a good result, something in heaven. And last week I described it more as a holiday camp. And I made a telling statement, why did you make the heaven here? All of that we covered. So, the drinkers of soma and so on, so purified from sin, worshipping me, Mom, by sacrifices, pray for the way to heaven. They reach the holy world of the Lord of the Devas, Indra. Indra is traditionally the Lord of the Devas, and enjoy in heaven the celestial pleasures of the Devas, and this is where we left off. Then we went on, and we probably covered this, but for convenience sake we'll do it once more. Titam bhukta swarga lokam visharam. Kshine punye martya lokam vishanti. Punye, the fruits, the good effects. Evam trayi dharmam anuprapana gatagatam kama kama labhante. Having enjoyed the vast world of heaven, your holiday camp, They return to the world of mortals. Even devas have a desire to return to the world of mortals and to come back to a very holy place. So, the ancient people thought that the land of Bharat was such a holy place. There are others who think so too, because in that land, that has been the only region historically that has yielded so much saintliness, so much holiness, so much energy dedicated to spiritual pursuit. So, it is necessary to return to this world with its ego and with its capacity to control nature, internal and external, and the capacity to find your own freedom with the equipment that you have. Thus, abiding by the injunctions of the three Vedas, desiring objects of desires, they go and come. But why don't they get the freedom? Why don't they get this immortal life that they're looking for? And the reason is because what's holding them back is desires. And I mentioned last week, what is the definition? A sense that there is a hollow, a lack of fulfillment in me that has to be fulfilled. And since, like all organic species, I react to the environment around me, then not occurring to me that I need to control the mind, control my senses, control my choices, exercise my will, not understanding that fully because desires are much more attractive, I continue pursuing it. And the system is not that we should stop the desires. That's the interesting thing. It is that we should fulfill the desires until we become absolutely tired of it. And look at the generosity. We have unlimited opportunities for this fulfillment. But every pain is a learning experience, is a stimulus for us to revalue things and to see if we can reform somewhere. And so the next subject then comes up, because man gets what he seeks. Whatever you seek, you get by using this mechanism. This gives us tremendous comfort. There's a wonderful example from Swami Vivekananda himself during his wandering days. And he was engaged in a train journey. And in this train journey, he didn't have any food. He hadn't had food for some days. And he was suffering from hunger pangs. And whoever his sponsor was had decided that he would put him on first-class train, carriage. And there was a rich gentleman with him who said, I have no sympathy for you. You chose this life of a sannyasin. You chose to deprive and be lazy and not work. You don't earn a living and so on and so forth. Like that, scornful. Then he got off the train, the railway station. And he couldn't sit where the other passengers sat, wasn't dressed appropriately. There's a dress code for sitting in the restroom. So he went and sat under a tree. In sitting under a tree, what happened? A man from a distance called him and went up to him and presented him with food. The man said to him, you see, I've been looking for you because I had a dream. That dream, the Lord appeared to me, Lord Ram, and said, there is somebody, you need to go and make food and take it to him. You're the person. And he made some various things, luchis and so on, and gave it to him, and relieved his hunger. So what is this guide that leads us through life in a safe way? This is called faith. We have to have this unwavering conviction that we are looked after. How can we say we are looked after? It's very easy. The minute you were born, even prior to being born, are we not fed? Are we not looked after? Are we not clothed? You see what Jesus said? A spirit of renunciation taking over. The lilies of the field are clothed without their asking. They never prayed for it. The flowers are looked after. The birds of the air are fed. They didn't make an application to social services. automatically they're fed. Nature is such an arrangement that wherever the need is, the fulfillment is there. When a child is born, is it not fed from the mother's own body? Is it not nurtured safely? Is every need not looked after? And even now in your life, is every need not looked after? Only you may not be aware of it. Much of the activity in the human body and mind is completely unconscious. Only about 5% of our mental activity is said to be conscious. Should we not be thankful? Should we not be thankful that the sun rises every morning, giving us energy? Should we not be thankful for that food gets digested without our asking? We don't have to put a spoon down, give it a stir. It all happens by itself. The blood knows how to repair itself. And a constant current of pocket money called thought arrives at your substation for your use. Should we not be thankful for this? The chances are that if you're not thankful for it, what happened was you didn't notice it properly. You took it for granted. You had a laissez-faire attitude toward it. You assumed it's my right, it has to happen. Or don't even think about it. Mechanism of the body, we were discussing the other day. See, you cut your hand here. How long does it take? You can time it. How long does it take for oikopassos to come and form a scab and heal that? Under normal circumstances it happens. How much are we looked after in every aspect, physically, mentally, emotionally, if we notice it, if we exercise our will over it, if we become sensible and mature about it, we have every opportunity of living a good life. You know, the old adage, you see, about the feet and the shoes, you know. I realized I was in dire straits, I had no shoes until I found somebody with no feet, that kind of thing. Then, of course, somebody in a developing country, quite happy. In Africa you'll find it. Many years ago, you find people living in a rural existence. No electricity. They didn't know they'd be happy with electricity. They were quite happy without it, thank you. When the sun went down, their eyes went down with it. They went to bed, the sun rose, they got up. And the rooster crowed. You know, there's a country called Malawi. They have the rooster as their national symbol. And everywhere you go in that rural country, when that sun rises, roosters crow, everybody wakes up and gets on with their business. And food is provided because the ground grows it. Mother Earth supplies it and gives us the ingenuity and cleverness to know how to properly use it. So all of these things are there, worthy of our attention, worthy of our thankfulness. So this world is something that we can enjoy much more if we pay attention to it. So to those men or people who worship me alone is the thing. It's a beautiful, beautiful statement. Anyas chintayanto mam ye janaha paryopasati tesham nityapiyuktanam yogakshimam paham yaham. To those people who worship me alone, that is, to those people who feel united with me, that there's only one thing, and thinking of no other, because nothing else will be there if there's only one, who are ever devout, I provide gain and security, but actually the term is more than that. There's an English translation, but it's more than that. What you gained will be preserved. That's what it means. So whatever you came across, you don't have to go back to the beginning. It'll preserve. And what already is possessed is carried forward. I supply everything. I supply what is already needed, and I preserve what is already given. What a wonderful, beautiful, loving statement. When religion says God is love, this is a beautiful example of how it works. You know, there's that game Snakes and Ladders. It becomes a game of frustration. Every time you get to the top, the next throw of the dice brings you down. Well, life is not like that. So here it's told, every time you climb up, there's no climbing down. You retain your position. Not a problem. So there's a sublime statement, says the commentary, revealing the law of life at the spiritual level. And in the economy of nature, the distribution of labor is benignly meted out. It's all right for the body-bound man with the ego to toil for food and clothing. Do it, that's fine. So, man gets what he seeks, and then who are the seekers? There was a particular devotee, every time he came to a class, he only asked one question: who are the seekers? I thought he was talking about a band. So, because he asked it all the time. You know. So I tried to answer in different ways, because it's a common question. And in all these philosophical questions, there's no standard answer. From where are you looking at it? You have to take into account what's called relative real perception. If you take the non-dualistic point of view, you'll say there are no seekers. It's all just an imaginary thing. And we are fundamentally only one without a second. That's all there is. And the rest is just superfluous stuff. That's one answer. But from a human level, we are all looking for something, some kind of fulfillment. So the easy answer to the question is we're all seekers. And then seekers are these two types. They can be seekers after desires or seekers after truth. Most people seek fulfillment through the avenue of desires. Other people say, no, we don't see much value in that. They take all that energy and steer it toward something that is permanent, perennial, truthful, that gives some fulfillment and satisfaction. But nobody is denied. No seeker is denied. So I provide what is required, and I preserve what is there. And it is anyanya bhakti, when the love of the Jivatman for the Paramatman takes away all the distinctions between the two. Just like nearness ultimately becomes oneness. When you develop a love for something, the great saint, Rumai, I think it was. Anyway, she was asked, or Runai, I think it was. She was asked, do you love God? She says, yes. Says, do you hate the devil? She said, because I love God, I haven't got time for that. I haven't got time to love or hate the devil. See, my day is more occupied with love of God. And yoga, of course, in the context of the stanza, means the provision of the means required for the devotee's bodily maintenance, and kshema means the protection of what has been provided, that's been done. So now Sri Ramakrishna gives this wonderful commentary. When the devotee takes one stride towards the Lord, he takes, that is the Lord, takes 10 strides towards that devotee. Such is His grace. We should not underestimate the Lord's grace. God's grace is already there. When you sit down and pray, Lord, give me your grace, you're missing the point. The capacity to ask and think, is God's grace arrived at your substation? It's already there. Nothing to ask for. That grace is always flowing. What is grace? Something that is always flowing. See Ramakrishna's comparison about the sailboat. The wind of God's grace is already flowing. What is our role? We have to be open enough to set the sail with a sense of faith that we will be carried. So faith is the key thing.
Raji, I have a question about negative circumstances, and when they happen at a large scale, like a city or a country, when there's like starvation or a war or a plague, is this accumulated thought? How does this happen?
So the whole of nature runs on the basis of causation. There's a causation rule. We don't say it's haphazard. There's always a reason for it. Now, when we analyze the reason, with a comprehensive why, it becomes annoying. Why? Because you see, you can say, supposing there's, let's say there's a tsunami or something. The interesting thing, it's a good example, because the interesting thing about a tsunami is no animal gets injured. I never heard of any animal that got injured in a tsunami. We asked what's the cause of the tsunami. Well, the cause of the tsunami was the shifting plates under the ocean creates a kind of eruption, some kind of volcano under the sea. And naturally that affects the waves, and sooner or later they arrive on the shore and create devastation, because this is how nature works. Nature is smooth and rough. We have to know her laws. In your favor, lowering the bucket. Not in your favor when you bring it up. But we have to know how to handle it. What is the cause of no animals getting injured? Is the same as asking, what is the cause of why humans got injured? Because animals have an internal instinct that they pay attention to. And knowing and sensing that this great wave is coming, they all went to higher ground. Maybe the domestic animals didn't have that wisdom. And the humans who are supposed to be superior on the organic scale, foolishly decided that they'll stand and watch. What's the cause of their destruction? The cause of their destruction was their lack of understanding and knowledge and application and of the laws of nature, which are always there, and not paying attention to it. So you can say, if you want to trace a causal relationship there, you can go that route, and then say the nature of nature itself is not smooth. This is why Kali is said to be the most wonderful expression of God as nature that we've ever come across, particularly in this world. Because this universe, what we call nature, is ruled by time and death. And death and time are the same thing. There's a second. I don't know where it's gone. It's gone forever. It's gone. It's dead. From our point of view, it's gone. Of course, from the physics point of view, it was never there in the first place in that way. So, when you start a causal chain of questioning, then another question will come. Will not the homage paid to the minor deities become the worship of the Lord, says the commentary here? And the clarification will come. Now, what do we mean by this? We have to make an interesting exploration. You see, on the weekend, on the Saturday, a group who came for the yoga teacher training, they asked me a question and I asked a counter question. In your opinion, how many gods are there? Now, I was careful in my language actually. I didn't say gods, I said deities or devas. How many are the devas? And of course, this comes in relation to an accusation, if you put it like this, in Hinduism, that Hinduism is a pluralistic religion and there are many, many gods. It's not pluralistic, polytheistic. Of course it's pluralistic, but a polytheistic point of view. And the Hindus themselves will answer, not helpfully, oh, we have so many crore. Something like 30 crore or something. Of course there's a mistranslation, crore and categories. But leave that aside. We have a misunderstanding of this term, devas, and we got caught into the trap of this wrong translation. So the deva means something that shines. You can see that the universe is something like a government, where governing officers are there, of different types, minor officers. Some supreme entity, cosmic mind, and minor officers everywhere. And so we can appeal to the minor officers who are useful for minor things. What are the minor things in our life? They are the things that we don't have faith about. Oh, please, will you rescue my business? Oh, will you rescue my health? Or will you do something for this person? It might have a spirit of generosity as well to say, let me pray for somebody else. But all the time, it's within the realm of material benefit. Being in that realm, it's of minor importance because the major thing would be your own freedom. Don't forget, the Upanishads classify knowledge into higher knowledge, lower knowledge, paravidya, aparavidya. And what are we interested in? Even the scriptures get classified as lower knowledge. Even this Bhagavad Gita, you remember, has said, what use is the Vedas when there's a flood everywhere? What use is water compared to water? What use is a tank of water when there's a flood everywhere? The Vedas are just part of the superstructure to assist you to clarify things, remove doubts, and give you some useful directional instructions. Go this way, don't go that way. But all of these are merely aids and helps. And so, when we go and do some ritual and so on, appealing to one of the many forms of divinity, understanding that this is all manifestation of one entity, we expect a result and we get it. Because this is only one entity with so many manifested powers. So where do we get this knowledge or this understanding of this one thing? The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. That's why we have to study these Upanishads. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, this great, great forest. There, the great Rishi Yajnavalkya is challenged with many questions. One question is, Yajnavalkya, how many are the devas? And he says as many as is mentioned in the Nivedita, a hymn of praise in the Vedas, the Rig Veda. And there amounts to kind of two numbers comes out, that is 303 and 3033. These two categories are there. Then the next question is, well, what are these? Well, these are various manifestations of powers of, and it comes down to 33 categories. 33 are the devas. Then the question is asked again, no, but really, seriously, how many? And it's reduced to 6. And then the question is re-asked, is reduced to 3. Each time exhibiting that the previous number was just subcategories, manifestations of the preceding one. And then how many? 3. And then how many? 2. And then how many? 1.5. And then how many? 1. Now ask a Hindu, did you read this passage? How many are the gods? Are you a polytheistic religion? If they say yes, so many crore gods we believe in. Oh, you never read this passage, because the same question was asked, and it came down to 1. With this understanding, all these other minor offices are merely manifestations. And since we believe that only one entity seems to be fragmented into all these names and forms, everything you look will be an apparent fragment of that one entity. Everything is a manifestation of that. But there are different stratas within it, naturally. Now, other religions have the same ideas, except they don't use the same language. When you lose your keys, what do? You appeal to the god, Saint Anthony. You don't call it God, you call it Saint Anthony, an invisible presence somewhere that somehow has insight into where you last left your keys. Some divine heavenly insight that has, and you have every faith in it. So we have to understand that these various manifestations are there, and by praying to that, will we get the same benefits? Will we understand that it is really coming from the one? And so we have this clarification. Even those devotees, see, who endowed with faith, let's say that I'll find my keys, worship other devas, that's the language, other devataha, anya devataha, other deities. Difficult to get away from this English translation. Gods, worship me alone. If you attribute the supreme kingship to every minor officer, not understanding that they're appointed by that one entity, the reality is, it was the Lord of the universe that found your keys. In this example. So, worship me alone, O son of Kunti. By the wrong method. Wrong method means misunderstanding that this is a separate entity. Nevertheless, and wrong method means attending to something that is minor and not asking the King of the Universe for the prize, the main prize of freedom, complete absence of pain. Let me relieve this pain for 5 minutes, knowing that another one will come along. So it's compared to a good government in this commentary. It has its sound administration system from which its loyal officers do not deviate like that. As all powers come to them from the government, even so whatever power the other deities and manifestations and powers have, they all come from the central entity. And apart from and independent of him, no deity has any power to bestow any boon, because all power comes from the central entity. Then the question arises, but why should this method be held wrong at all? And then a clarification comes. Aham hi salva jnananyam abhakta cha prabhu evacha natu mam abhijananti tattena tas chavantite. I am, that is, aham, I am truly what? I am the enjoyer and the Lord of all yajnas, all prayers, all petitions, all rituals. But these people don't know me in reality, and hence they fall, because their interests will be on the material level. Not for love's sake. Don't forget, this whole chapter is on bhakta, love. It's a bit like saying, well, I love you if you give me whatever I require. I love you if you're able to supply a car at a decent price. If not, then I'll go to another garage, something like that. And don't forget the previous statement that the Lord made. He says, I alone am the Adi Yajna here in this body. The relative destinies of the varying votaries are as follows. So, votaries of the devas go to the devas. Whatever you think of, you go to that. In Zimbabwe we had a wonderful devotee, but you see, she was also a spiritualist. And one day my guru said to her, don't forget, you see, if you're thinking of ghosts all the time, won't you go to the land of ghosts? Whatever you think of, the rule in meditation is whatever you meditate on comes to you. Won't you yourself be a ghost? Just a question, just a suggestion. So, there it is. Yanti devavrata devan pitran yanti pitravatraha bhutani yanti bhutejya yanti madhyajino pi yanti madhyajino pimam. That is, votaries of the various entities, various levels of existence of devas, they go to the devas. The votaries of the pitras, they go to the pitras, middle management. The bhutas, they go to the bhutas. But my votaries come to me. All these different stratas within the scope of Maya and nature. Of course, the pitras are the mains. They form a region of their own, different regions. The idea is that although we have this experience here, we don't discount any parallel universes anywhere. So we have scope for many, many different entities. The angels, religions have angels, religions have ancestors, religions have various spirits. Ancestral spirit worship is common in Africa. All of these things are there. And so these bhutas are in the scale of evolution intermediate between men and devas, and that means that they are the same as Tanmatas. It is the worship of Ishvara, the supreme reality, that really is beneficial. That's where you have the lasting thing. Instead of going to a minor officer, why don't you go to the supreme ruler of the universe? Instead of asking for some bylaw to be passed, why don't you go to the president of the country? Why do you want to go to a minor councillor? So, Sri Ramakrishna puts it like this. A dyer once had, you have to understand, a dyer is not somebody who, it's not a mortician. It's somebody dyeing clothes. A dyer once had a unique method of coloring clothes. He had a solitary dye, And in this tub, he would dip the cloths brought in by the customers and give whatever color they wanted. Red, yellow, blue, green, purple, some magic thing like that. And all these and more colors were produced there from the same tub. Imagine a tub there, all colorless water. You say, I want my cloth dyed red. Put it in, red comes out. Green comes out green. What's the meaning? An intelligent customer who watched these miracles entrusted his cloth to the dyer and requested him to dye it as he liked. Not as I like. You do it as you like, please. So our mind is the cloth. The dyer is Ishvara. Lord, you do what you like. Let me submit my will to you. Do as you want. We were talking earlier about ego, not as I want. So everybody who's in a devotionally submissive position will get what they want because thy will be done. Lord's will and yours match. Ishvara is the dyer and the dyeing tub. He gives us what we pray for. Whatever we want, he gives. The best that we can do is not to ask him for anything, but give ourselves over to him. He in his turn gives himself to us. So we have these various options. I'm reminded of Swami Vivekananda, as you know, the well-known story, when he, with great doubt, and was in dire straits, and he wanted a solution, a divine solution to his problem. He went to Sri Ramakrishna. You believe in the Mother Kali. Won't you pray to me for her? He said, I can't do it. But you go and do it. He goes off to the Kali temple, comes back. Did you do it? No, all I could ask for was pure devotion and inner wisdom. Oh, go again. Like that he went 3 times and could never ask for the material thing. And then he said, all right, here's the thing. You will never want for simple food and clothing and shelter and all that. See? If you align yourself to that, then automatically you have everything, because seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, other things will be added unto thee, says Jesus. So access to the minor entities within the realm of the universe is rather easy, but access to the Supreme, the Emperor, Ishvara, is not so easy. An idea to this effect may arise in the minds of people, but the Lord clarifies the position of worshipping Ishvara, or God. And how do we do it? Now, there are many ways we can do it. There are elaborate pujas we can do. There are people who will tell you, you have to do these accurately, otherwise it's bad luck. But you see, after every puja, there will be an apology. Lord, forgive me if I have done something not exactly accurate. And is it that you have to do the exact rituals and so on? You do your best, but the real thing is the purity of your intention, because the mobilizing force will be the thought, and the thought will carry through unless suitably neutralized. And so, very, very simple. Try to make things as simple as possible. Strip away all the elaborate things and bring out instead a love, a purity of intention, a sincerity, a loving heart that has no mean-mindedness in it, that has no sense of egoistic interests. Lord, I am yours. Pure love. No sense of reciprocity to it. Do with me what you want. In a great convention, first convention of the Ramakrishna order, my grand guru, in a sense, Swami Shivananda said, Mahapurush Maharaj said, be like the sword that strikes the anvil. It doesn't complain if it lands on a wrong place. It's happy to be wielded in the hands of the wielder. Be like that. Be some kind of instrument. Make me an instrument of your peace is a prayer. See? Then I won't complain. You do with me what you want. But knowing that, you won't do anything wrong with me, that you love me, that you provide everything with me, that you protect whatever was gained and preserve whatever is there, and give me unlimited opportunities to experience your glory. Knowing that, I know that I'm in safe hands. Pure faith, loving faith. So, Patram pushpam palam toyam. The very famous quotation. Yo me bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhaktya upartam ashnami parayam tatmanaha. Patram, a leaf. What does a leaf represent if not life? How does a leaf transform itself for our benefit? It knows the secret of catching photons from the sun and through the magic of photosynthesis, converting that into something. Now they say there's a quantum element to this. It's a miracle. You and I can't do it. And we claim that all these leaves come to us, and we don't think the leaf or the sun or the air or the intermediary through which it travels has anything to do with it. We just munch and crunch on the cabbage and so on, and think, absent-mindedly we can do it, and think that we ourselves are doing it. But you're not doing it at all. When I came to this country, I thought, I may have mentioned this many times to people, I thought I will never starve in this country because there is the stinging nettle all over the place. If you catch it carefully and pick it, put it in hot water, the sting goes. It has as much nutrition as all this, as the kale and the spinach and all of that when cooked in the same way. And then when we went, what's the other example? We went to the dingle, and I pointed out, you see there are the nasturtium leaves and flowers, every part of that can be eaten. Can you try it? I gave a small piece to everybody. They looked at it. I had to watch them carefully in case they went like this. And they put it in their mouth. Yes, it tastes fine. Good, full of nutrition and vitamin C and all of that. So whoever offers me with devotion, that's it, with the intention, not much, leaf representing life, a flower. Do you think God requires flowers? Lord, here are your flowers. I saw you didn't have any. No, it's the Lord's flowers. Yeah, an abundance of it. It doesn't require flowers or leaves or anything that you offer. But it's a token. And behind the token is an intention. The intention can be many and varied. It can be a good intention, it can be a bad intention, it can be a self-centered intention. Or it can be a deeply moving intention, full of the glory and beauty and joy of love. You can put the light on. A leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water. No, just press it.
Yes.
Leave it. No, don't hold it. Just press it once and leave it. All right, leave it. Right, good. Or water. I accept that. The pious offering. What? Of who? Of the pure-minded, of the pure heart. See? Prayata Atmanaha. That's all. Even if you don't have these materials, just thinking about it and offering. Offering what? Offering yourself. What does the fruit represent? The fruit of my actions. Water is life. A leaf is life. Offer you my life, offer you my awareness and consciousness, and offer you my love. These are tokens of all of these things. What should the devotee do then? Well, the Lord tells, and then we finish off with this. Yat karoshe yat asmasi, yat juhoshi dadasi yat tapasyasi kanteya, tat kurusa mad arpanam. Whatever, yet, whatever you do, this is repeated over and over again. This is called karma yoga, but not recognized. Because whatever you do, whatever means waking up, brushing the teeth, washing, driving, talking, interacting, doing your job, whatever you do, whatever you eat, Whatever you offer in sacrifice, when you eat, it should be an offering. If you don't take it like that, this ego comes in that you mentioned previously. And either absent-mindedly you put food in, or it might be a psychological compensation you put too much in. Or you do it because you're worshipping the god of taste. Or you do it because it's pleasurable. Not necessarily because you need it. See that old adage, do you live to eat or eat to live? Which one? So whatever you eat, whatever you offer in sacrifice, in other words, your normal daily life should be full of sacrifice, either formally or informally. Whatever you give away in charity, whatever austerity you practice, whatever self-control you practice, whatever exercising of the will you practice, whatever meditation you do it in what way? As an offering to me. So there's a physical offering that is mentioned, flower, simple flower, leaf, fruit, water. But then what about all your other activities? It beautifully leads into the subject by saying, where we understand from yajna is, you sit down somewhere and you do a little puja, you offer something. You being the Lord of the universe, I'll take you as reality and give you this. Now it's saying, even without that, in your normal waking life, in your daily activities, comprising of any activity you do, and particularly the food that you eat, is an offering. Take it like that. If you don't take it like that, it's not sacramental food and can be damaging to you, will be damaging to you. If you take food not understanding its spiritual quality, its sattva quality, its purity, then it will damage you. The bane of modern human society is like that. Just carelessly eating something. Maybe in front of the television where blood and murder is taking place. Agatha Christie and so on. Eating like this, absent-mindedly. What do you think will happen? Do you think your stomach will start murdering the food? Yeah, probably. If you see anger, will the stomach not be angry? If this is what your diet is, physical diet and mental diet also, combined, what damage you are doing? Not taking it as sacramental food. All food should be taken in this way as prasad. So the panacea for all the evils of earthly life is presented in this one statement, in this sentence. Sometimes making a gift is more like self-advertisement. Say, I give this donation to the hospital. In conversation it comes up. Say, oh, by the way, yes, I managed to help them out. I gave a donation. You must have noticed as you walked in, a small plaque on the side of the wall, acknowledging my generosity. Oh mother, I am an instrument, says Sri Ramakrishna. You are its manipulator. I am the house, you are the resident. I am the chariot, you the charioteer. I move as you make me move. I speak as you direct. My doings are all your doings. Not I, but you. Can we not adopt this attitude? This is the only attitude in terms of devotional life. We leave it off there then.